The rain hammered against the windows of the 42nd floor. Zane Carter stood alone in his corner office, watching the lights of Chicago blur through the water streaming down the glass. His expensive suit felt heavy on his shoulders. The boardroom meeting had ended an hour ago, but he couldn't shake what had happened. Marcus Webb, his business partner for 5 years, had sold him out. Right there in front of the investors, Marcus had presented Zane's own ideas as his own work. The merger deal that Zane had spent months putting together was now going to Marcus instead. Zane picked up his phone to call his driver, then stopped. He needed to think. He needed to be alone with his thoughts, not sitting in the back of a car making small talk. He grabbed his coat and headed for the elevator. Outside, the October wind cut through his jacket. The rain was coming down harder now. Zane stood on the sidewalk, watching taxis rush past with their wipers working overtime. Finally, one pulled over. The yellow cab looked old and worn. The driver leaned over to roll down the passenger window. "Where to?" she asked. Zane froze. That voice. He knew that voice. He bent down to look through the window, and his heart stopped. Behind the wheel sat a woman with warm brown eyes and high cheekbones. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore a plain sweater and looked tired. "Janelle," he whispered. She looked at him more closely, squinting through the rain. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God, Zane Carter." They stared at each other for a long moment. The rain kept falling. Cars honked behind them. "Get in," she said quietly. "You're getting soaked." Zane climbed into the back seat, his mind racing. Janelle Brooks. After 11 years, here she was, driving a cab in downtown Chicago. "Where are we going?" she asked, not looking at him in the mirror. Lincoln Park, the high-rise on North Lake Shore Drive." She nodded and pulled away from the curb. The radio was playing softly, some old song from the early 2000s. Zane studied her reflection in the mirror. She looked different, older, of course, but there was something else, a hardness around her eyes that hadn't been there in high school. Back then, Janelle had been the smartest girl in their graduating class. She'd gotten a full scholarship to Northwestern. Everyone knew she was going places. "So," she said, breaking the silence. "Lincoln Park, nice neighborhood." "Yeah, it's home, I guess." More silence. The windshield wipers kept beating back and forth. "I heard about your company," Janelle said. "Carter Industries. You made it big. I got lucky." "No, you didn't. You were always smart. Always had that drive." Zane didn't know what to say to that. In high school, he'd been the quiet rich kid. His father owned half the businesses in their small hometown. Everyone knew the Carter name, but that didn't mean they liked him. Most kids thought he was stuck up. They didn't know that he was just shy. Except Janelle had known. She'd been the only one who ever really saw him. "What about you?" he asked. "Northwestern, right? Pre-med." Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Things change," she said. The song on the radio shifted to something familiar. Zane recognized it immediately. "Breathe Me" by Sia. It had been playing at their senior prom. He remembered because he'd spent the whole night wanting to ask Janelle to dance and never finding the courage. She must have remembered too, because she reached over and turned the volume up slightly. "God, this song," she said softly, "takes me back." "Prom night," Zane said. "You remember that?" "I remember everything about that night." She glanced at him in the mirror. "You were there with Madison Riley, the homecoming queen. My father's idea. He thought it would be good for the family image. And what did you think?" Zane was quiet for a moment. "I thought I was with the wrong girl." Janelle's breath caught slightly. She turned the radio down. They were getting close to his building now. Zane could see the doorman through the glass entrance reading a newspaper. "This is it," Janelle said, pulling over. Zane didn't move to get out. Neither of them spoke. "Janelle," he said finally, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What happened to Northwestern? To medical school?" She turned around in her seat to face him. Her eyes were bright, but he could see the pain there. "My mom got sick, cancer. I had to come home and take care of her. Used up my college fund on treatments. By the time she stopped and took a breath. "By the time she passed, it was too late to go back. I'm sorry, I didn't know." "How could you? We all went our separate ways after graduation." "Not all of us wanted to." She looked at him for a long moment. "The meter's running," she said quietly. Zane pulled out his wallet and handed her a $50 bill. The fare was $12. "Keep it," he said. "I don't need your charity, Zane." "It's not charity. It's a tip for the conversation." She took the money, but she didn't look happy about it. "There's a coffee shop on Clark Street," Zane said quickly. "Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Meet me there." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "Because you're you and I'm me, and nothing's changed since high school." Everything's changed since high school. She shook her head. Some things never change, Zane. Rich boys don't date cab drivers. I'm not asking for a date, I'm asking for coffee as friends. We were never friends. That hurt, but Zane knew she was right. They'd never been friends because he'd never had the courage to try. Then let's start now, he said. Janelle looked out at the rain, then back at him. I have to go. I've got 3 more hours left on my shift. Zane opened the door but didn't get out. The coffee shop is called Margie's, he said. It's on Clark between Fullerton and Lincoln, 9 o'clock. I know where it is. I eat breakfast there sometimes. So you'll come. I didn't say that. Zane got out of the cab and leaned down to the window. I'll be there anyway, he said, just in case. Janelle looked at him for one more moment, then rolled up the window and drove away into the rain. Zane stood on the sidewalk, watching her taillights disappear. The doorman came out with an umbrella. Mr. Carter, you're soaked. Come inside. But Zane didn't move. For the first time in years, he felt something other than anger or emptiness. He felt hope. Inside his penthouse, Zane poured himself a glass of whiskey and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sparkled below him. He'd worked for 10 years to get here. The penthouse, the company, the respect. But tonight, sitting in that old cab, he'd felt more alive than he had in months. Janelle Brooks. He'd thought about her over the years, especially when things got tough. He'd wondered what she was doing, whether she was happy. He'd even looked her up online a few times, but had never found much. No social media, no professional profiles. He'd assumed she was living her dream somewhere, maybe practicing medicine in another state. But she was here, driving a cab, taking care of her sick mother until it was too late to chase her dreams. Zane set down his glass and walked to his home office. He opened his laptop and started typing. If Janelle wouldn't come to coffee tomorrow, he'd find another way to see her. He pulled up the website for Yellow Cab Company and found their dispatch number. He'd request her specifically, as many times as it took. The next morning, Zane woke up before his alarm. He'd barely slept. He kept thinking about the look in Janelle's eyes when she'd told him about her mother. The pain there, the resignation. He'd been born with every advantage. Private schools, trust funds, family connections. His biggest worry in high school had been whether his father would approve of his college choice. Meanwhile, Janelle had been planning a future that depended entirely on her own hard work and intelligence. And when life knocked her down, she'd had no safety net to catch her. Zane got dressed carefully. Not his usual $1,000 suit, jeans and a sweater. He wanted to look approachable, normal. At 8:30, he walked to Margie's coffee shop. It was a small place with checkered floors and red vinyl booths, the kind of place his father would have called common. But it smelled like fresh coffee and bacon, and the waitresses called everyone honey. Zane ordered coffee and a muffin and sat in a booth by the window. He could see the street from there. If Janelle came, he'd spot her. 9 o'clock, came and went. No Janelle. At 9:15, Zane ordered another coffee. At 9:30, he started to give up hope. At 9:45, the bell on the door chimed, and she walked in. She was wearing jeans and a green jacket. Her hair was down around her shoulders. She looked around the diner until she spotted him, then walked over to his booth. "You're still here," she said. "I said I would be." She slid into the seat across from him. "I almost didn't come. What changed your mind?" "Curiosity, I guess. It's been a long time since someone wanted to have coffee with me just to talk." The waitress came over. "What can I get you, honey?" "Coffee, please. Black." "That's it? How about some eggs, French toast? You look like you could use a good breakfast." Janelle smiled. "Just coffee. Thanks." When the waitress left, Zane and Janelle sat in awkward silence. "So," Janelle said finally, "Carter Industries. I looked it up online. You're worth about $50 million. Money isn't everything, says the man who has it. You're angry with me." "I'm not angry. I'm just realistic. We come from different worlds, Zane. We always did. In high school maybe, but we're adults now." "Exactly, which means I know better." Zane leaned forward. "Know better than what?" "Than to think this conversation means anything. Tomorrow you'll go back to your penthouse and your board meetings, and I'll go back to driving cab. This is just nostalgia." "Is that what you think this is?" "Isn't it?" Zane was quiet for a moment. "Do you remember junior year? English class with Mrs. Patterson?" "Of course. We had to write essays about our heroes. You wrote about your mother." Janelle looked surprised. "You remember that? You said she worked 3 jobs to keep you in school, that she never complained, never gave up, that she taught you that strength wasn't about never falling down, it was about getting back up." "I can't believe you remember that." "I remember everything about you, Janelle. The way you bit your pencil when you were thinking, The way you hummed under your breath when you were nervous? The way you always sat in the third row, left side in every class we had together?" She stared at him. "Why? Why what? Why did you notice all that? We never even talked." "Because I wanted to. Every day I wanted to talk to you, but I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Of you seeing me the way everyone else did, as just another rich kid who had everything handed to him. But that's what you were." "No, that's what I had." "It's not who I was." The waitress brought Janelle's coffee. She wrapped her hands around the cup like she was trying to warm herself. "I used to watch you too," she said quietly. "You did? In the library. You always sat alone. You read these thick books that weren't assigned for any class. Philosophy, history, poetry. I wondered what you were thinking about." "I was thinking about how to talk to you." She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "If only we'd known then what we know now." "What do we know now? That life doesn't care about your plans, that good people suffer while bad people prosper, that sometimes the best thing you can do is just survive." "Is that what you've been doing? Surviving? Every day?" Zane reached across the table and touched her hand. She didn't pull away. "What if I told you that you don't have to just survive anymore? I'd say you don't understand my life. Then help me understand." Janelle pulled her hand back. "Why does it matter to you?" "Because yesterday was the worst day I'd had in months. My business partner betrayed me. I felt more alone than I've felt in years. And then I got in your cab, and for the first time in forever, I remembered what it felt like to be around someone who actually saw me. I don't know you anymore, Zane. So let me show you who I am now." She was quiet for a long time, staring into her coffee cup. "I have to work tonight," she said finally. "That's okay. And I can't afford to take time off for coffee dates. Then I'll ride in your cab. We can talk while you work." She looked up at him. "You'd do that?" "I'd do whatever it takes." Something in her expression softened slightly. "One ride," she said. "Tonight at 8, corner of Michigan and Randolph, and you pay full fare. Deal." She stood up to leave, then turned back. "Zane, don't expect too much from this. I'm not the same girl I was in high school. Neither am I the same boy." After she left, Zane sat in the diner for another hour, drinking coffee and thinking. For the first time in years, he had something to look forward to that wasn't about business or money. He had a second chance with the one person who had ever made him feel like he was enough just as he was. The question was, would she give him that chance? Zane stood on the corner of Michigan and Randolph at 7:50. He'd changed clothes 3 times. First the suit, then jeans, then back to khakis and a button-down shirt. He felt like a teenager getting ready for his first date. The yellow cab pulled up right at 8 o'clock. Janelle leaned over and rolled down the window. "You're punctual," she said. "Old habit." "Good. I hate waiting." Zane got in the back seat. The cab smelled like coffee and vanilla air freshener. There was a small photo taped to the dashboard. A woman with Janelle's eyes and smile, wearing a nurse's uniform. "So your mother?" he asked. Janelle glanced at the photo. "Yeah, she always said I should keep her close. She looks like you." Everyone said that. "Same stubborn chin." The radio crackled. "Car 47, pick up at Navy Pier. Tourist needs a ride to O'Hare." Janelle picked up the radio. "This is 47, on my way." She pulled into traffic. "Hope you don't mind. It's a good fare. Long ride to the airport." "I don't mind." They drove through downtown Chicago. The city lights reflected off the wet streets from the morning rain. Zane watched Janelle navigate the traffic. She drove with confidence, taking shortcuts he'd never seen before. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked. 3 years. Started right after Mom died." "What were you doing before that?" "Taking care of her. Worked part-time at a bookstore when I could. But the last year, she needed me full-time." "That must have been hard." "It was, but I wouldn't change it. She was my best friend." They pulled up to Navy Pier. A man in his 50s with a suitcase and a confused expression stood by the curb. "That's him," Janelle said. She got out to help with the luggage. "Thank God," the man said. "I've been waiting 20 minutes. I'm going to miss my flight." "Don't worry," Janelle said. "I'll get you there." The man got in the front seat. "O'Hare, Terminal 3, and please hurry." "What time is your flight?" Janelle asked, pulling away from the curb. 10:15, United to Denver. Zane did the math. It was 8:30 now. In normal traffic, O'Hare was 45 minutes away, but this was Friday night in Chicago. "We'll make it," Janelle said confidently. She took Lakeshore Drive north, then cut west on Irving Park. Zane had never seen anyone drive like this. She knew every shortcut, every traffic pattern. She talked to the passenger about his trip while navigating through construction zones and around accidents. "Business or pleasure?" she asked. "Business, software conference. I hate flying, but the company's making me go." "What kind of software?" "Medical billing. Boring stuff. Not boring if it helps doctors take care of people. The man looked at her in the mirror. I never thought of it that way. My mum was a nurse. She always said every job in a hospital mattered, from the doctors to the people who emptied the trash. Everyone was helping people get better. Your mum sounds wise. She was. They made it to O'Hare with 20 minutes to spare. The man tipped Janelle an extra $10. Thank you, he said. You saved my job. Have a safe flight. After he left, Janelle sat in the pickup area, filling out paperwork. That was impressive, Zane said. What was? The way you handled him. He was panicked when he got in. You calmed him down. People are usually stressed when they need a cab. Part of the job is making them feel better. Is that what you did with me yesterday? She looked at him in the mirror. Yesterday was different. How? You weren't stressed. You were hurt. The radio crackled again. Car 47. Pickup at University of Chicago Hospital. Room 314. Janelle frowned. Hospital pickups are usually sad. She pulled away from O'Hare and headed back into the city. The ride took 40 minutes. Neither of them talked much. Zane found himself watching Janelle's reflection in the mirror. The way she bit her lip when she was concentrating. The way she hummed along with the radio when she thought he wasn't listening. At the hospital, she parked in the pickup zone. I'll be right back, she said. Can I come with you? Why? I don't want to sit here alone. She studied his face. Okay, but let me do the talking. They took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Room 314 was at the end of a long hallway. Janelle knocked softly. Come in, a voice called. Inside, an elderly woman sat on the bed, fully dressed. She had silver hair and kind eyes. A young man, maybe 25, stood beside her holding a small suitcase. Mrs. Patterson, Janelle said. I'm your driver. Zane's breath caught. Patterson, like their high school English teacher. The woman looked up and smiled. Oh, you're so young and pretty. Tommy, look at this nice girl who's going to drive us. Tommy smiled weakly. Thank you for coming so late. No problem, Janelle said. Where are we going? Sunset Manor, the woman said. It's on the north side. Tommy found me a lovely room there. Zane could see the pain in Tommy's eyes. This wasn't a happy move. Grandma, Tommy said gently. Remember what we talked about? The doctor said you need help now, more help than I can give you. I know, sweetheart, you're doing your best. Janelle helped the woman to her feet. What's your name, ma'am? Dorothy. Dorothy Patterson. I used to be a teacher. Zane stepped forward. What did you teach? English. High school English for 40 years. I loved those kids. Zane's heart was pounding. Did you teach at Lincoln High? About 12 years ago? Dorothy looked at him more carefully. Why, yes. Do I know you? Zane Carter. I was in your junior year class. Her face lit up. Zane, my goodness. You were the quiet one. Always reading. You wrote beautiful essays. You encouraged me to keep writing. And did you? In a way. I write business proposals now. Dorothy laughed. Not quite poetry, but words are words. She looked at Janelle. And you, dear, you look familiar too. Janelle Brooks. I was in that same class. Janelle. Oh, my stars. You wrote about your mother. The hero essay. I still remember it. Janelle looked surprised. You do? Of course, it was one of the best essays I ever received. You made me cry. Tommy cleared his throat. Grandma, we should go. The cab's waiting. The ride to Sunset Manor was quiet. Dorothy sat in the front seat holding Tommy's hand. Zane and Janelle exchanged glances in the mirror. At the nursing home, they helped Dorothy get settled. It was a nice place, but it was still a nursing home. Tommy was fighting back tears as he signed the paperwork. I'll visit every week, he promised his grandmother. I know you will, sweetheart. When they got back to the cab, Tommy paid the fare and tipped generously. Thank you, he said, for being so kind to her. After he left, Janelle sat in the parking lot for a moment. Are you okay? Zane asked. I used to drive my mom to doctor appointments. Toward the end, they all started to feel like that, like we were running out of time. I'm sorry. Mrs. Patterson was my favorite teacher. She made me feel like my writing mattered. It did matter. It does matter. Janelle started the engine. We should get going. I have one more pickup tonight. They drove through the quiet streets. It was almost 11 o'clock. Most of the traffic was gone. Janelle, Zane said, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you ever talk to me in high school? I mean, we were in the same classes. We sat near each other. She was quiet for a long moment. You really want to know? Yes. Because I had a crush on you. A huge crush. And I knew you'd never be interested in someone like me. Zane felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. Someone like you. Come on, Zane. You know what I mean. You were rich, popular. Your family owned half the town. I was the scholarship kid who worked at the diner on weekends. I didn't care about any of that. Maybe not, but everyone else did, including me. So you avoided me. I protected myself. The radio crackled. Car 47, last pickup of the night, corner of Clark and Division. This is 47, on my way. They drove to Clark Street. A young couple stood on the corner, holding hands and laughing. They were dressed up, probably coming home from a date. Where to? Janelle asked as they got in. Lakeview. We'll show you where. The couple spent the ride talking about their evening. They'd been to dinner and a movie. They were clearly in love, finishing each other's sentences and sharing inside jokes. Zane found himself envious. When was the last time he'd felt that happy, that connected to another person? After they dropped off the couple, Janelle's shift was over. She drove to the cab company's lot and parked. End of the night, she said. Thanks for letting me ride along. It wasn't so bad. They got out of the cab. Janelle gathered her things from the front seat. Her purse, a water bottle, a paperback book. What are you reading? Zane asked. She showed him the cover. Jane Eyre. I'm working my way through the classics I missed in college. I love that book. You've read it? Twice. In high school and again a few years ago. What did you think? I thought Rochester was an idiot for not seeing what he had right in front of him. Janelle looked at him for a moment. Sometimes people don't see what's right in front of them. Sometimes they're too scared to look. They walked to the edge of the parking lot. Janelle's car was parked under a streetlight, an old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. This is me, she said. Janelle, can I see you again? Why? Because I spent 3 hours with you tonight and it was the best 3 hours I've had in months. We're different people now, Zane. Are we? Because you still care about people. You still make everyone around you feel better. You still have that same kind heart. And you? I'm still the guy who was too scared to talk to you in high school, but I'm trying to be braver now. She unlocked her car door. I work tomorrow night. Same time. Can I ride along again? If you want to. I want to. She got in her car and rolled down the window. Zane, earlier when you asked why I never talked to you in high school? Yeah, I lied. That wasn't the only reason. What was the other reason? I was afraid that if I got to know you, I'd fall for you. Really fall for you, and then I'd get hurt when you realized we came from different worlds. And now I'm 30 years old and I drive a cab for a living. I can't afford to fall for anyone, especially someone like you. What if I told you I was already falling? She looked at him for a long moment. I'd say you don't know what you're talking about. She drove away, leaving Zane standing alone in the parking lot. But as he watched her taillights disappear, he realized something. For the first time since high school, he knew exactly what he was talking about. He was falling in love with Janelle Brooks. Again. The next morning, Zane couldn't concentrate on work. He sat in his office staring out at the city, thinking about the night before, the way Janelle had talked to Mrs. Patterson, the way she'd comforted the nervous businessman, the way she'd looked when she talked about her mother. Marcus Webb knocked on his door. We need to talk, Marcus said. I'm busy. This is about the Henderson merger. The deal's falling through. Zane looked up. The Henderson merger was worth $20 million. What happened? They're having second thoughts. They want to meet with you personally. Set it up. Zane, there's something else. The board's asking questions about your commitment to the company. What kind of questions? They've heard you've been distracted lately, taking personal time during business hours. Zane realized Marcus was talking about yesterday morning, when he'd gone to the coffee shop to meet Janelle. Who told them that? Marcus shrugged. Word gets around. After Marcus left, Zane sat alone in his office. He'd worked for 10 years to build his reputation. His company was his life, but suddenly, it didn't feel like enough. He picked up his phone and called the cab company. I'd like to request a specific driver, he said. Janelle Brooks, car 47. That night, Zane was waiting on the corner when Janelle pulled up. You called the dispatch, she said as he got in. I wanted to make sure I got the right cab. That's cheating. I prefer to think of it as being resourceful. She smiled despite herself. Where are we going? Wherever you're going. The radio crackled with the first call of the night, a pickup at a fancy restaurant downtown. When they arrived, a well-dressed woman was waiting by the curb. She was crying. Are you the cab? She asked through her tears. Yes, ma'am. Where would you like to go? Home. Oak Park. The woman got in the back seat, still crying. Her makeup was smudged. Her expensive dress was wrinkled. Rough night? Janelle asked gently. My husband, ex-husband now, I guess. He served me with divorce papers at dinner, in front of everyone. I'm sorry. 23 years of marriage, and he ends it over dessert. Janelle caught Zane's eye in the mirror. He could see her compassion for this stranger. "What will you do now?" Janelle asked. "I don't know. I haven't worked in 15 years. I don't even have my own credit card." "You'll figure it out. You're stronger than you think." "How do you know?" "Because you're still here. You could have fallen apart in that restaurant, but you didn't. You called a cab and you're going home. That takes strength." The woman wiped her eyes. "You're very kind. I've been where you are. Different situation, but I know what it feels like when your whole life changes in one day." By the time they reached Oak Park, the woman had stopped crying. She tipped Janelle extra and thanked her for listening. "You're good at that," Zane said after she left. "At what?" "Making people feel better. It's just being human. Not everyone is that human." They drove through the night, picking up passengers and dropping them off. Each person had a story. The college student working 3 jobs to pay for school, the nurse heading home after a double shift, the elderly man visiting his wife in the hospital. Janelle treated each one with the same kindness and respect. She remembered names. She asked about their lives. She made them feel like they mattered. Around midnight, they stopped for gas. Zane bought them both coffee from the station. "Can I ask you something?" he said as they sat in the cab. "Sure. Do you ever think about what would have happened if things had been different? If your mom hadn't gotten sick? Every day? Do you regret it? Giving up your dreams?" Janelle was quiet for a moment. "I used to, but I learned something taking care of my mom. Dreams aren't just about what you want to do, they're about who you want to be, and I'm proud of who I became. Even driving a cab? There's nothing wrong with driving a cab. I help people. I make their days a little easier. That matters. You're right. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You're not the first person to think this job is beneath me." "I don't think that." "Then what do you think?" Zane looked at her. "I think you're the most remarkable person I've ever met." She looked away. "Don't. Don't what?" "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it's not fair." "What's not fair?" "You can't come back into my life after 11 years and say things like that. You can't make me feel things I can't afford to feel. What if I want to make you feel them?" "Then you're being selfish." The radio crackled. "Car 47, pick up downtown, Michigan Avenue." Janelle started the engine. "We should go." But as they drove through the empty streets, Zane knew something had changed between them. The walls she'd built were starting to crack, and he was determined to find a way through them. The next 2 weeks fell into a pattern. Every night at 8, Zane would meet Janelle at her cab. They'd drive through Chicago together, picking up passengers and talking about books, about memories, about everything except what was really happening between them. Zane started bringing dinner for both of them. Sandwiches from the deli near his office, coffee when it got late. He learned that Janelle liked her coffee black and her sandwiches without mustard. He learned that she still hummed when she was nervous. He learned that she read romance novels when she thought no one was looking. Janelle learned that Zane kept antacids in his jacket pocket because work stress gave him headaches. She learned that he'd read every book in his high school library by senior year. She learned that he'd never been in love before, not really. "What about Madison Riley?" she asked one night as they sat in traffic. "What about her? You dated her for 2 years. My father liked her family. She was safe." "Safe how?" "She never asked me what I was thinking. She never challenged me. She never made me want to be better than I was." "And that's what you want? Someone to challenge you?" "I want someone to see me, really see me, the way you did in high school." "I barely knew you in high school." "You knew me better than anyone." But even as they grew closer, Zane's business world was falling apart. The Henderson merger had collapsed completely. 2 other deals were in trouble. The board was asking more questions about his focus and commitment. Marcus Webb was making his move. "The investors are concerned," Marcus told him in a Monday morning meeting. "Your performance has been inconsistent lately." "My performance is fine." "Is it? You missed the Hoffman meeting last week. You were late to the presentation on Thursday, and where were you Friday afternoon?" Zane had been at the library, picking up books for Janelle. She'd mentioned wanting to read more poetry. "I had a personal matter to attend to." "Personal matters don't pay the bills, Zane. The board is meeting this afternoon to discuss your position." After the meeting, Zane sat in his office, staring at his phone. He wanted to call Janelle, but she was sleeping. She worked nights and slept during the day. His assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Carter, there's a reporter here to see you. Jennifer Walsh from the Chicago Tribune." Zane had never heard of Jennifer Walsh. "What does she want?" "She wouldn't say, but she mentioned it was about your personal life." Zane's blood went cold. "Send her in." Jennifer Walsh was a small woman with sharp eyes and a digital recorder. She sat across from his desk and smiled. "Mr. Carter, thank you for seeing me. I'm working on a story about successful businessmen and their unusual hobbies. I understand you've been spending your evenings riding in taxicabs. Where did you hear that? I have sources. Is it true? I don't see how that's newsworthy. Well, it becomes newsworthy when the taxi driver is an attractive young woman, and when you're requesting her specifically every night. Some people might call that stalking. Zane stood up. This meeting is over. I also spoke to some of your former classmates from Lincoln High. They remember both you and Miss Brooks. Interesting that you'd reconnect after all these years. Makes a person wonder what else might be going on. Get out. I'll be running the story tomorrow morning. Would you like to comment? After she left, Zane called his lawyer. Then he called his publicist. Then he sat alone in his office and wondered how his life had gotten so complicated. That night he met Janelle as usual, but something was different. She seemed distant, distracted. Everything okay? He asked as they drove to their first pickup. Fine. You seem upset. I said I'm fine. Their first passenger was a businessman going to a late meeting. He spent the entire ride on his phone, talking about deals and mergers. Zane could see Janelle watching him in the mirror. After they dropped him off, she pulled over and turned to face Zane. Is that what you do all day? She asked. What? Talk about money and deals and mergers like that guy. Sometimes it's business. Is that all you care about? Business? Of course not. You know that. Do I? Because I've been thinking about this, Zane. About us, about what we're doing here. What are we doing here? I don't know, that's the problem. The radio crackled with another call. Janelle ignored it. Talk to me, Zane said. I'm scared. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of feeling things I can't afford to feel. Why can't you afford to feel them? Because you're going to leave. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually you'll get bored with this little adventure and go back to your real life. This is my real life. No, it's not. Your real life is boardrooms and mergers and $50 million companies. I'm just a distraction. You're not a distraction. You're the first real thing that's happened to me in years. Then prove it. How? Before she could answer, the radio crackled again. Car 47, where are you? You missed your last 2 calls. Janelle picked up the radio. Sorry, dispatch. Car trouble. On my way. They drove to their pickup in silence. The tension between them was thick enough to cut. Their passenger was a young woman going home from her job at a bookstore. She was reading a paperback novel during the ride. Good book? Janelle asked. It's okay. Romance novel. Kind of predictable. How so? Rich guy falls for poor girl. She doesn't trust him because they're from different worlds. He has to prove he's serious. You know how it goes. Janelle glanced at Zane in the mirror. And does he? Prove he's serious? Usually. But only after she almost gives up on him completely. After they dropped her off, Janelle and Zane sat in the cab without speaking. That felt like a message, Zane said finally. Everything feels like a message when you're looking for one. Janelle, what do you want from me? I want you to go back to your life and forget about me. I can't do that. Why not? Because I'm in love with you. She went very still. Don't say that. It's true. You don't know me well enough to love me. I've known you for 11 years. I just didn't have the courage to tell you before. Zane, stop. I love the way you care about strangers. I love the way you remember everyone's name. I love the way you hum when you're nervous and bite your lip when you're thinking. I love that you still read romance novels and cry at sad movies. How do you know I cry at sad movies? Because you have that same look in your eyes now that you had when we read Romeo and Juliet in Mrs. Patterson's class. She turned away from him. This is crazy. Maybe, but it's also real. The radio crackled again. This time it was the dispatcher's voice, sounding irritated. Car 47, you need to respond to calls or go home. You're missing fares. Janelle picked up the radio. This is 47. I'm going home. End of shift. She drove to the cab lot without another word. When they got there, she turned off the engine and sat staring straight ahead. I can't do this anymore, she said. Can't do what? This. Us. Whatever this is. Because I told you I love you. Because I'm starting to believe you mean it. I do mean it. That's what scares me. She got out of the cab and gathered her things. Zane followed her to her car. Janelle, wait. I need time to think. Think about what? About whether I'm brave enough to trust you. She got in her car and rolled down the window. Zane? That night we talked about high school. When you asked why I never talked to you? Yeah? I lied again. There was a third reason. What was it? I was going to. Talk to you, I mean. I had it all planned out. I was going to ask you to the spring dance. But then something happened. What happened? I'll tell you if I decide to trust you. She drove away, leaving Zane standing in the parking lot with more questions than answers. The next morning, Zane's world exploded. The Chicago Tribune story was on the front page of the business section. Tech CEO's taxi cab romance, eccentric hobby or something more. The story had everything. Photos of Zane getting into Janelle's cab, quotes from unnamed high school classmates about their different social backgrounds, speculation about whether the relationship was affecting his business performance. By 10 a.m., Zane's phone was ringing non-stop. Reporters, investors, board members. His publicist was having a nervous breakdown. Marcus Webb called an emergency board meeting for that afternoon. "This is a disaster," Marcus said, throwing the newspaper on the conference table. "Our stock price is down 8% since the story broke. It's a personal matter," Zane said. "Nothing's personal when you're the CEO of a public company. The investors are spooked. They think you're having some kind of breakdown." "I'm not having a breakdown." "No? You've been disappearing during work hours, missing meetings. Your performance has been erratic for weeks, and now we find out you're stalking some cab driver." "I'm not stalking anyone. That's not how it looks to the outside world." Board member after board member expressed their concerns about Zane's focus, about his judgment, about the company's reputation. Finally, Margaret Chen, the board chair, spoke up. "Zane, we've known each other for 5 years. You built this company from nothing, but the board has a responsibility to the shareholders. We need to know that you're committed to Carter Industries." "I am committed." "Then end this relationship, publicly. Make a statement that it was a misunderstanding. Get your life back on track. And if I don't, then we'll have to consider other options." That night, Zane went to the cab lot, but Janelle wasn't there. He waited for 2 hours. Finally, another driver told him she'd called in sick. He drove to her apartment building. It was an older building in a working-class neighborhood. He'd never been there before, but he'd looked up her address months ago. He stood outside for an hour, trying to work up the courage to ring her doorbell. Finally, he gave up and went home. The next morning, his assistant told him Janelle had called. "She wants to meet you tonight, Millennium Park, by the bean sculpture, 10 o'clock. Zane spent the day in meetings trying to clean up the mess from the newspaper story, but his mind was on Janelle. What did she want to tell him? What was the third reason she'd never talked to him in high school? At 10 o'clock, he found her standing by Cloud Gate, the giant reflective sculpture that locals called the Bean. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. Her hair was down. She looked beautiful and sad. "You came," she said. "Of course I came. I saw the newspaper story. I figured you had. Is it true? About your job being in trouble?" "Maybe. Probably. Because of me. Because of choices I made." She was quiet for a moment, looking at their reflection in the sculpture. Two people standing apart, but connected in the curved metal surface. "I need to tell you something," she said. "About high school, about why I never talked to you." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do, because if we're going to do this, if we're going to try, you need to know the truth." She took a deep breath. "Senior year, I was going to ask you to the spring dance. I had it all planned. I was going to find you after English class and just do it, ask you out. What stopped you? I did find you after class, but you were talking to your friends, Tommy Richardson and Mike Stevens. They were talking about me." Zane's heart sank. He remembered Tommy and Mike. They'd been his friends, but they'd also been cruel sometimes. "What did they say?" "Tommy said he'd heard you had a thing for me. Mike laughed and said you'd never actually ask me out because your father would kill you. Then you laughed too. Janelle, you said, and I quote, 'My dad would disown me if I brought home a scholarship kid. Some fantasies are better left as fantasies.'" Zane felt sick. He remembered that conversation. He'd been trying to fit in, trying to seem cool. He'd said things he didn't mean to impress his friends. "I was 17, he said. "I was an idiot. Maybe. But it broke my heart. And it made me realize that no matter what I thought I saw between us, you saw me as a fantasy, not a real person. That's not true. Isn't it? Because here we are 11 years later, and I'm still the poor girl and you're still the rich boy. Nothing's changed. Everything's changed. Has it? Because earlier today, I got a call from a reporter. She wanted to know if you were paying me for sex." Zane felt rage building in his chest. "What did you tell her?" "I hung up, but then I started thinking about what this is doing to your life, about what it's doing to mine, about whether we're just setting ourselves up for heartbreak. And what did you decide?" Janelle reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. It was old and yellowed, with Janelle Brooks written on the front in careful handwriting. "I decided to give you this," she said. Zane stared at the envelope. He recognized his own handwriting. "Where did you get that?" "From my locker, the day after graduation. Someone had slipped it through the vents. You never opened it? I was too hurt, too angry. I threw it in my car and forgot about it. Found it last week when I was cleaning out my glove compartment. She held out the envelope. I think it's time we both found out what 17-year-old Zane Carter really wanted to say to me. Zane took the letter with shaking hands. After 11 years, his words to Janelle were finally going to be heard. The question was, would they be enough to save them? Zane's hands trembled as he held the envelope. 11 years of wondering what might have been, and now the answer was right in his fingers. Are you going to open it? Janelle asked softly. Are you sure you want me to? I need to know. We both do. Zane carefully opened the envelope. The paper inside was folded neatly, written in his teenage handwriting. He unfolded it and began to read aloud. Dear Janelle, I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to give you this letter. I've started writing it 100 times and thrown it away 100 times, but graduation is tomorrow, and if I don't say this now, I'll never get another chance. Janelle's breath caught. She moved closer to him, looking at the letter over his shoulder. I know we've never really talked, but I've wanted to talk to you every day for 3 years. You probably think I'm just another rich kid who has everything handed to him, and maybe that's true about some things. But it's not true about the things that matter. Zane's voice cracked slightly as he continued reading. You're the smartest person in our class. You're kind to everyone, even the kids who aren't kind back. You work harder than anyone I know. And you have this way of looking at the world that makes me want to be better than I am. Zane, Janelle whispered. I know I don't deserve someone like you. I know my friends would laugh if they knew I was writing this. I know my father would be furious if he found out I have feelings for you, but I can't graduate without telling you the truth. He paused, looking at her. Tears were starting to form in her eyes. I'm in love with you, Janelle Brooks. I have been since sophomore year when you stood up to Brad Miller for picking on that freshman kid. I've been in love with you through every English class, every lunch period, every moment I was too scared to walk over and say hello. Oh my God, Janelle breathed. I don't know what you're planning to do after graduation. I know you're going to Northwestern, and you're going to become a doctor, and you're going to change the world. I'm going to business school, and I'll probably end up working for my father, and I'll probably never do anything as important as what you're going to do. Zane's voice was barely a whisper now. But if there's any chance that you might feel something for me too, I want you to know that I would give up everything to be with you. The money, the family business, all of it. Because none of it means anything if I can't share it with someone who sees me for who I really am. He looked up at Janelle. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. There's more, he said gently. Keep reading. I know this letter is probably too little too late. I know you probably see me as just another coward who never had the guts to talk to you when it mattered. But I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'll give me a chance to prove that I'm more than that. Zane folded the letter carefully. It's signed, Forever yours if you'll have me, Zane. They stood in silence for a long moment. The park was quiet around them. The city lights reflected off the sculpture, creating patterns of light and shadow. You wrote that? Janelle asked finally. Every word. When? The night before graduation. I was going to put it in your locker that morning, but I chickened out. I gave it to Tommy Richardson and asked him to deliver it for me. Tommy Richardson? Yeah. He said he'd make sure you got it. Janelle closed her eyes. Tommy never gave it to me. What? He kept it. All these years he kept your letter. But you said you found it in your locker. I lied. Tommy called me last week. He said he'd been carrying guilt about something for 11 years, and he needed to make it right. He brought me the letter. Zane felt anger rising in his chest. He kept it. Why? Because he thought he was protecting you. He said your father had already heard rumors about you having feelings for me. Tommy was afraid that if you actually asked me out, your father would cut you off financially. He thought he was doing you a favor. Jesus. He also said he was jealous. That all of you guys had crushes on me, but you were the only one I ever looked at. You looked at me? All the time. I thought you never noticed. I noticed everything about you. Janelle wiped her eyes. So what now? What do you mean? I mean, we know the truth now, about what happened in high school, about what we both felt. But that doesn't change where we are today, doesn't it? Zane, you could lose your job because of me, your whole company, everything you've worked for. I don't care. Yes, you do, and you should. Carter Industries isn't just your job, it's your legacy, it's what you built. I built it to prove something to my father, to prove I was worth something. But I already know I'm worth something, because you see something in me worth loving. That's not enough. You need more than that. Do I? Because I spent 10 years building an empire, and the only time I felt truly happy was sitting in the back of your cab. Janelle shook her head. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. Zane, listen to me, I love you too. His heart stopped. You do? I've loved you since I was 16 years old, but love isn't enough. We come from different worlds. That was true in high school and it's true now. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we missed our chance. Maybe some things are just too complicated to fix. I don't believe that. Your board is going to fire you if you don't end this. Let them. And then what? You'll have no job, no money, no future, and you'll resent me for it. Never. You say that now, but what happens in 5 years when you're struggling to pay rent and I'm still driving a cab? What happens when we can't afford to have kids or buy a house or take vacations? What happens when you realize what you gave up for me? Zane stepped closer to her. What happens if I don't take this chance? What happens if I let fear win again? What happens if I spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been? You'll be successful. You'll find someone else. Someone who fits in your world. I don't want someone else, I want you. Zane, marry me. The words came out before he could stop them. Janelle stared at him in shock. What? Marry me. Right now. Tonight. Are you insane? Probably. But I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of doing what other people think I should do. I'm tired of living my life for everyone except myself. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. We've known each other for 3 weeks. We've known each other for 11 years. We just spent 3 weeks remembering why we fell in love in the first place. Janelle was crying again. This is crazy. Good. I'm tired of being sensible. What about your company? I'll start over. We'll start over. Together. What about money? We'll figure it out. People do it every day. What about your father? What about him? I stopped trying to please him a long time ago. Zane, you're not thinking about this rationally. Rationality is overrated. I've been rational my whole life, and where has it gotten me? Alone in a penthouse with a company full of people who don't really care about me. He took her hands in his. Janelle, I know this is crazy. I know it's fast. I know we'll probably struggle financially. I know people will think we're insane. But I also know that I'd rather struggle with you than succeed without you. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? She looked into his eyes. You really mean this? I really mean this. You'd give up everything for me? I'd give up everything for us. She was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, she smiled through her tears. Okay, okay, okay. I'll marry you, but not tonight. When? Give me 1 week. I want to make sure you don't change your mind when the reality hits you. I won't change my mind. Prove it. Go to work tomorrow. Face your board. Deal with the consequences of choosing me. If you still want to marry me after a week of that, then we'll talk. And if I do, if I prove that I'm serious, then I'll say yes. For real this time. Zane kissed her then, right there in front of the sculpture. It was their first real kiss, and it tasted like tears and hope and 11 years of waiting. The next morning, Zane walked into his office with a plan. He called an emergency board meeting for 10 o'clock. When the board assembled, Marcus Webb was already there with a smug expression on his face. Gentlemen, Marcus said. Ladies, I think we all know why we're here. Zane's personal life has become a liability to this company. Actually, Zane said, standing up, I called this meeting to make an announcement. He looked around the room at the faces of people he'd worked with for years. Some of them looked concerned. Others looked hungry for his downfall. I want to be clear about something, Zane said. The woman in the newspaper story is not some random cab driver I'm stalking. Her name is Janelle Brooks, and I'm in love with her. I intend to marry her. Murmurs went around the room. Furthermore, Zane continued, if this board feels that my personal happiness is incompatible with my professional responsibilities, then perhaps it's time for me to step down as CEO. Margaret Chen spoke up. Zane, that's not necessary. We just need to know that your focus is on the company. My focus is on building a life worth living. If that means building it without Carter Industries, then so be it. Marcus leaned forward. You can't be serious. Dead serious. I've spent 10 years building this company, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished, but I'm not going to sacrifice my chance at happiness for stock prices and quarterly reports. The board won't accept your resignation, Margaret said. You built this company. You are this company. No, Zane said. The company is bigger than any one person, including me. If you want me to stay, then you'll have to accept that my personal life is exactly that, personal. If you can't accept that, then I'll clean out my desk today. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Margaret spoke. We'll need to discuss this as a board. Take all the time you need. I'll be in my office." Zane left the boardroom and sat in his office waiting. He thought about Janelle, probably sleeping after her night shift. He thought about the letter he'd written 11 years ago. He thought about all the chances he'd been too afraid to take. An hour later, Margaret Chen knocked on his door. "We've reached a decision," she said. "And? We want you to stay. The board agrees that your personal life is your business, as long as it doesn't interfere with your work performance." "And Marcus? Marcus has been relieved of his duties. We discovered that he was the source for the newspaper story. He violated company confidentiality policies." Zane felt a wave of relief. "Thank you. Don't thank us yet. The stock price is still down. We have work to do to rebuild investor confidence." "I understand." "Good, now tell me about this woman. Is she really worth all this trouble?" Zane smiled. "She's worth everything." That week was the longest of Zane's life. He threw himself into work, rebuilding relationships with investors and clients. The stock price slowly recovered. The media attention died down. But every night, he waited by his phone, hoping Janelle would call. She didn't. On Friday evening, Zane drove to the cab company lot. Janelle was just finishing her shift. She saw him waiting by her car and walked over. "Hi," she said. "Hi. You made it through the week?" "Barely. How's work?" "Better. The board decided to keep me. Marcus is gone." "I heard about that. I'm sorry." "Don't be. He betrayed me. I'm better off without him." They stood there awkwardly, not sure what to say. "Janelle," Zane said finally, "I meant what I said. About marrying you. About giving up everything if I had to. I know. But I don't have to give up everything. The board accepted us. We can have both. Your life and mine. Together. Can we? Really?" "Yes." She looked at him for a long moment. "Ask me again." "What?" "Ask me to marry you again, the right way this time." Zane got down on one knee, right there in the parking lot. He pulled out a ring he'd bought that morning. Not a huge diamond. He didn't want to overwhelm her, but something beautiful and simple. "Janelle Brooks," he said, "will you marry me?" She started crying. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood up to kiss her. Around them, other cab drivers started cheering and honking their horns. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too. So what now? Now we figure it out. Together." 6 months later, Zane and Janelle were married in a small ceremony at Millennium Park, right by the sculpture where they'd read his letter. Mrs. Patterson was there, in a wheelchair, but smiling. Tommy Richardson came too, to apologize in person for keeping the letter all those years. Janelle kept driving cab for another year, while she went back to school part-time. Zane used his connections to help her get into a nursing program. She'd decided that taking care of people was her true calling, just like her mother. Carter Industries thrived under Zane's leadership. He was more focused than ever, knowing that he had something real to work for now, someone real to come home to. They bought a house in a middle-class neighborhood. Not the penthouse, not the mansion, but a real home where they could build a life together. On their first anniversary, they went back to Millennium Park. They stood by the sculpture, looking at their reflection in the curved metal. "Do you ever regret it?" Janelle asked. "Giving up the penthouse? The fancy lifestyle?" "Never," Zane said. "Do you regret trusting me?" "Never." "Good, because I have something for you." He handed her an envelope. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside was a letter, written in Zane's handwriting. "Dear Janelle," she read aloud, "happy anniversary. I know I tell you every day that I love you, but I wanted to write it down too, because words on paper last forever, and I want there to be proof that this was real, that we were real." She looked up at him. "You wrote me another letter." "I figured I owed you one after 11 years. She kept reading. "You are everything I dreamed you would be and more. You're my best friend, my partner, my home. Thank you for taking a chance on the scared boy who was too afraid to talk to you in high school. Thank you for seeing the man he could become. Zane, there's more. I promise to love you through whatever comes next. Rich or poor, sickness and health, good times and bad. I promise to never let fear make my decisions again. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life." Janelle finished reading with tears in her eyes. "It's signed, forever yours, and you have me, Zane." "Forever yours," he repeated, "and you have me." They kissed as the sun set over Chicago. Two people who had found their way back to each other across 11 years and 1,000 obstacles. Love, it turned out, really was worth waiting for. And sometimes, if you're brave enough, it's worth fighting for too. The end.